So watch this. She just follows me. Watch us. I'll go in a circle. She'll follow me in a circle. She's right there.
So today I have a very special guest. Her name is Tina from Overall Adventures, and she flew all the way here from New York. I'm so privileged to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. I wanted to bring you here because your channel is all about journaling, which is like the other half of my life. And I just love how you so freely share how you do it. And I want people to know that journaling doesn't have to be, what is the word?
No rules?
Yes.
I think what there's no rules.
No rules. And like, what is journaling to you? Like, can you put it in a nutshell?
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me.
You're
I'm really
welcome.
glad to be here. Okay, so for me, journaling is a completely free space where there's no restrictions. I can just be myself. I can be wild. I can be angry. I could be sad. I could be happy. I could have all of my feelings in one spot and not worry at all about anyone else seeing it, about anyone else judging me, about being right or wrong. I can just be. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, like, overall, that's probably what journaling is to me, is just this just totally free space to be myself.
You know, one thing that I hear from people a lot is that they're afraid to journal because they're afraid someone else will read it. So what do you say to that? Yeah,
I get that a lot. People ask me those questions too. Let's see. So there's a couple different things. Some people, I suggest, like, hiding your journal or locking it up if that really is something that you feel like you can't express yourself fully. Mm-hmm. I'd say just start off with trying to keep your journal as safe as possible so that you know at the end of the day that nobody else is in there. Because if you have this feeling or that insecurity, like maybe someone, my family or my sibling or something, would sneak in and look, then you're not going to be able to be as authentic and as true to yourself if you're feeling like someone's going to invade that space. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm lucky and blessed that I don't have anyone in my life that seems that interested in what I'm writing. So they kind of, and they understand and respect that that's so sacred and so private. So I would say, like, locking it up is helpful, or even, like, I have one video on my channel where I have these little hacks of, like, where you can hide your journal, or how you can kind of lock it up in, like, a little lockbox, things like that. Is helpful, but I really do think that just making it as secure as possible so that you can have the space to be like, okay, this is just me now. So
would you say that having that free space, that where you can be, you know, yourself and work through these things, what happens when you stifle it because of fear of someone reading it? Because I know for me, journaling is very therapeutic. And if I didn't journal, I probably wouldn't be able to deal with some things in my life. So if you can't journal freely, what does that do to you mentally?
I think it okay, so if you can't journal freely, I think already in life, it's hard to just be ourselves with other people without feeling like other people are judging us, or we're just afraid to show ourselves. And if we can't be ourselves in a notebook, then where else can we practice without the fear of judgment or the fear of someone making fun of you? Or
why do you suppose we're afraid of being judged? Because we all do it. Even when we say, I'm not judging you, we're always judging people. It's a natural human instinct. But why are we so afraid of it? Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Somebody doesn't like you?
Exactly. Or sometimes I think too, it's like I'm afraid of maybe who I am. I'm afraid of my own, like, weird quirks, and if I put that out there, then maybe someone else would pick on something that I'm already maybe self-conscious about. But I agree. I really feel like, what's the worst that could happen? But so for me, especially in high school, it was so helpful to journal because I didn't know who I was. So I was like, okay, let me work this out here privately, and then I could have the courage to kind of be more of myself with people in my life.
I can usually tell a journaler when I meet them in person, I mean, can you? Because, I mean, you can usually tell, okay, this
Yeah.
person has obviously done a lot of homework on themselves, and that happens in a journal.
Yeah.
You know, very few people, I mean, unless they meditate a lot, because that also, I think, is very helpful as well, meditation. But I don't know. I can just always tell if someone's a journaler. Like,
I wish I got to meet more journalers in real life. It's so nice to be here because it's like, oh, I'm surrounded with people who take the time to really reflect and take the time to really like turn inward and say like, and check in and be like, how am I really feeling with how my life is going? How am I really feeling about, you know, who I am and my values and how I'm kind of going about the world. So
I think one of your recent videos you talked about how it was one of your update videos and how you get trapped kind of, and I'm summarizing.
Yes.
But how you kind of get trapped in your journal and you need to remember to live your life.
Yes.
You know,
so I've recently had the opposite. Like I feel like there's this balance of like internal reflection and then not at all, like just kind of going through the motions of life. And I definitely have recently like swung way too far in kind of just like living in here and just spending so much time analyzing and less time just enjoying. And it's really easy for me to just get caught up in my brain and being like, oh, am I making the right choices? You know, and kind of all that self-chatter. And instead of just being like, okay, like life is really good and I need to just appreciate and enjoy it as it comes along. So for me, my journaling is actually changing over the past like few weeks and months to kind of just try to appreciate life a little bit more instead of analyzing it, which I tend to do in my journal. So I'm trying to experiment with some new ways of writing. But I wouldn't say I have anything like solid yet that I can articulate. It's kind of just...
Articulation is not an art form for me.
It's hard. It's hard.
But it is. Yeah. It really is. And, you know, when I write in my journal, you know, I can be sloppy and I can misspell words and I can say whatever I want, and as an adult I have no fear that someone's going to read it. You know, but and it's the people in my life wouldn't dare. And it's because they have respect for boundaries. So it's just, that's not a fear that I have, but I can relate to people that do fear it, because as a child that was a valid fear. I had siblings, you know.
I have this like horror story where I came home once after school and my sister and her friend were reading my diary. And I came home and like, you know, came in to open the door of my room and there they were with my diary. And it felt so exposing. Like the most, like that dream where you're like at school and you're not wearing any clothes and everyone's like, oh my God, you know, like it was like that. It was just like, I felt so humiliated. And, I think that was like one of the only times where I really like broke down to my sister and was like, and she didn't really realize what she had done at the time.
Really?
Yeah, I think she didn't. I think she
think she was reading a handwritten novel, or
I know. But after that, it was like, you know, my whole family too. They got it more like this is not okay to invade, and she wrote me a beautiful letter like apologizing, and she was just very young, so I think, you know, it seemed like fun at the time, and then
no, not fun.
It's fun,
especially as a teenager, because you're dealing with stuff and you don't know. I mean, you think you know, but you really don't know, and it's not until you get older that you realize all the stuff you don't know. You're like, I look at my life and I'm like, man, okay, these past 41 years, and then I'm like, man, there's so much more I don't know. So it's but journaling. Okay, so there's many different types of journaling. And some people journal with a keyboard, and some people like to write, and some people do like a voice type of a journal. And I know you like to write, and I've seen in your videos where you say you get hand cramps from writing. So that is some intense journaling.
So I went through, so I started with Miracle Morning maybe like 5 years ago, Miracle Morning, and then I did the Artist's Way of like writing straight stream of consciousness, and then that turned into kind of this hour-long morning routine where I would try to just write for an hour, like free writing. So it could be something creative, so sometimes it would be more like a mini short story, and then sometimes it would be more like traditional journaling, you know, and then, so yeah, my hand would cramp, and I have slowly actually developed like potentially some carpal tunnel, so we'll see. I always have to keep an eye on that. So actually switching to fountain pens has been really helpful.
Good.
Just because the ink flows better and it's kind of easier.
Well, yeah,
on
and
the
you don't have to
hands
press.
and-
You don't press, and you don't have to hold on to the pen so hard.
Yes.
Ballpoint pens, every time I pick one up, my instinct is to claw it, like,
Yes,
get a hold of that thing.
Same. Just like
Yeah.
and push it, which is like, I love going through my old journals and you can feel like that crinkly page because I pushed so hard that you can almost
Yeah.
like feel the letters. So I love that feeling, but
Then with the fountain pen,
Yeah.
each side is smooth.
it's smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's easier on the hands. So I do like that. And now I don't have as strict of a routine. I think like that routine really helped me kind of develop the practice of daily writing. And now it's more just, I let all the pressure go, like of skipping a day or things like that. Like I try not to just put that pressure on myself. Otherwise I don't enjoy it as much. But I think at the beginning, more like when I was in college too, like establishing a routine of writing really helped me to just kind of form the habit in my day-to-day life. And now it's just something like I feel like I just need to do. So I just do it as I need it. So
Yeah, well, and me too. I don't journal every day. You know, I usually journal when there's something I need to deal with.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, and my thing is could I have handled that situation better? And I try to always, like, reflect and be like, oh, I wasn't at my best in that moment, and this is what I should have done. And then the next time stuff like that comes up, I handle it better. And, you know, it helps. So,
yeah, people ask me too, like, I only journal when I'm sad, and then my journal looks like this whole, like, you know, I don't, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
well, just date
Yeah.
it, and then you'll see how many days between you were
Yeah.
that you weren't sad.
But I do think it's interesting because I also find myself journaling more when I really have a tough situation going on, when I really need to work stuff out. And my journaling for when times are really good is different. It's definitely harder for me to like describe things or get as analytical, but you know, it's okay.
Yeah.
There's no rules. There's no rules.
Yeah, I don't tend to journal when things are good.
Yeah.
Because I want to live in the moment and be happy, and I don't really feel like I need to work anything out there. And for me, journaling is working stuff out and making myself better.
Yeah.
So to me, that's what I use it for. And you know, I mean, some people journal about absolutely everything in their life, and I think that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And if that's what brings them joy and happiness, then please do it. You know, but for me, I just journal when I have troubles. And thankfully they're not that often. So now I know that people are going to ask, what are you holding in your lap?
Oh.
So, because people will ask.
Yes, people will ask.
They're
Okay.
going to want to know what
So
it is,
this-
what size it is.
So this is B6 Daisy in Pemberley.
Daisy,
Is
Pemberley.
this,
Okay.
is this still being made? I'm not sure.
We might
We should
have a
probably
little
address
bit
that.
left. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That's a Ruth thing.
Okay.
So remember I
Okay.
told you my brain compartmentalizes? Does Ruth know that? Okay, then I don't know that.
Yes.
So
But yeah, so I use this one now more just for daily journaling, really messy, whatever I want, kind of free space.
And what do you have in there? Like,
So,
'cause you have,
yeah.
it looks like you have a hardbound book and a
I
paperbound.
do, yeah. So I have a Tomoe River insert that I got off of Etsy. Can't remember which shop. I guess we could include that.
That's a nice thick one too.
Yeah,
You've got
it's
a lot
nice
of
and
pages
thick.
in there.
Yeah, and so I've been watercoloring kind of ahead of time because I knew I was coming here, so I gave myself some space. And then yeah, this is just a random hardbound, yeah, and it's a little smaller than B6, but I liked it. It kind of
fits
fit
in
nice.
there.
Oh my god, is it?
And you just stuck it in on the elastic.
Yeah, just stuck it right in the middle.
Yep, just like that.
Yeah, and then this is a Lamy fountain pen.
Yep.
So that's nice. And then this one is an A5, Mr. Darcy Toffee. And this is I use this for teaching. So I teach English, so I have one insert for each book that I'm teaching. So this is my Tale of Two Cities insert where I have just, analysis and questions that I want to ask the kids and stuff like that. And then this is just my messy notes. And then I have a Leuchtturm in here where this is more of my bullet journal kind of planning section. So both of these come with me to school every day.
And how long have you been bullet journaling?
Bullet journaling. I started right at the beginning. I followed My Tiny Ray of Sunshine. I think it was 2013. And I found Ryder Carroll a long time ago. So 2012, 2013, actually. So a while.
Yeah, I started bullet journaling in 2014. And as soon as I found the app To Do, which is TUXDUX.
Okay.
As soon as I found that app, I quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh no, I'm done with that. So this is so much easier for me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of bullet journalers out there, and I think it's such a great, effective way to get stuff done.
Yeah.
You know, just like if you have a lot of stuff to do, that's the way to go.
And I can't remember. I think it's just the way my brain works. But if I don't write it down, and I think it's probably from so many years of journaling, if I don't write things down, I just can't. I have no memory for where I'm supposed to be and when. So once I actively write it, then I'm like, okay, I know I have to be in Spokane.
Well, they say that note takers remember stuff better.
Yeah.
So that's probably why.
Yeah. So, and then, so for both of these, I put the hardbound in both of them. I like a hardbound. And I think, too, because I'm a lefty, I don't know, I just need that, like, little bit of a harder surface to kind of write on.
My husband's a southpaw, too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, can't read his handwriting.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to start journaling, but for whatever reason hasn't yet?
Sure. Okay, so the first thing I would say is pick a notebook that you really love. I think, but for me, that you have to be careful with the notebook you choose. I think finding what you love takes some time, figuring out if you like blank pages or dots or things like that. But I also think when you start a new journal, it's helpful to get something that's a little smaller, that you can actually get the satisfaction of like filling up a whole book. I think if people start with like a big, thick journal, it's so intimidating, or if it's too beautiful, then you're like, oh, I don't want to mess it up. And for me, the idea with journaling is this idea to just, again, free space, be yourself, be your mess, like your beautiful mess. And if it's too big and pretty, I find that people like hold back a little bit more instead of just like fully like expressing. And I think it's so satisfying to have a whole book that you feel like you almost wrote your own story. So I think something a little smaller that you can like take up the whole space and be like, this is me, this is mine. I think that's like one first thing I would say. And then the other would be establishing at the beginning like some kind of routine. So some kind of, even if it's 10 minutes of just like in the morning or in the evening, just that time to kind of reflect. When I first started, I journaled only in the evenings after school. And mine was more like, dear diary, here's what I did today. And then I always included like a little song that kind of like was like the epitome of like how my day felt. So that was like what I did at that time. And it was more documenting, like traditional, like this is the conversation I had, or here's something I'm worried about. And then over time it developed into more of like this kind of free response, fluid, some artistic poetry, stuff like that, but most of it like analyzing and just kind of free thinking. So
yeah, I do a lot of analyzing as well.
Yeah.
So I want to get back into poetry, but
yeah,
it takes a lot of brain power to make those words and rhythm flow. So
gosh, yeah, I did Nanowrimo this November, and I've done it now. This was my 4th year, and I've written like fiction in the past. So this year I was like, I'm gonna try poetry, and it was so difficult. It was so difficult. I had such a tough time with it.
You'd be doing lots of haikus. Like, I have to write something today. Okay, haiku it is. But isn't NaNoWriMo like a certain word count per day?
So typically it's like 50,000 words total, around like 1,600 per day. But for myself, since I was in school and things were getting crazy, I was like, I'll just try poems. So I did still do 1,600 words of like traditional journaling and tried to just like squeeze in poems in between. And I had a great, like, afterwards, when I read them back, I was like, oh my gosh, these are way better than I thought. I was so hard on myself and, like, so hard on the creative process. And I always try to talk on my channel about, like, just, working through that, like, self-loathing and, like, the creative, like, hating the creative process and things like that. And then I did it. I was like, it's hard.
You're like, do what I say, not what I do.
Like, it's really hard to not judge. And I think journaling is like this practice of not judging yourself and like spelling words wrong and not using grammar and just having fun. So I like to think like every day I practice that, but then still poetry happened and I was like, oh,
well, that's good.
It's hard. But,
that's good. So, what are you gonna? What's next for your channel? What are you
Sure.
doing 2018 on your channel?
Ooh, I wish I had a stronger plan, in all honesty. I work a lot from just my instincts and trying to feel like, okay, what am I really passionate about so that I can like express that for myself. I know people love watching flip throughs and that's really fun for me, but it's also, they're not my favorite to make. I know like everybody enjoys them, but they're hard.
Why do you guys enjoy those? Why?
It's so personal.
Yeah.
Every time I make one, I'm like,
I know, and that's one thing about your channel is that there's a lot of vulnerability there, and I really admire your bravery for that because I can't do it. I just can't. I'm like, nope, not going to share that. And one thing is you have to learn to be unapologetically yourself. Yep. And when I say I'm sorry, I'm not really saying I'm sorry for being me. I'm saying I'm sorry you don't get to experience me.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to put yourself out there like that. And
I'm fascinated with vulnerability in general, so that's something I try to bring into my channel and bring in with my students. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just fascinated by it, like this idea, and I think it's because I practice in my journal of like, if I take the time to like really express my true self, then like I'll be able to make more connections and people, and hopefully people would be able to feel like that they could do that with me. But every time it's still like, like cold sweat and like, I can't believe I'm sharing this. And actually my first day of teaching, I brought my journals to school, and because I wanted to show the students like, I'm going to make myself vulnerable to you guys. Like I'm new at this and I expect you guys to kind of work hard with me too. And I'll share with you. So I brought my journals and I read a couple of them from when I was in 10th grade. So I'm teaching 10th grade now so that they could see that like, I'm human and I don't know everything and like we're gonna work on this together. But I had that moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, like 30 kids are looking at me now and I'm like reading from my 10th grade diary, which is, embarrassing, but at the same time, like I like to think that it shows them that I'm human and there's something nice about that.
And how did that go over with them?
It went over surprisingly well. I think they were a little like, oh my gosh, we've never had a teacher kind of share herself in this way. So it went over well, and that's something I've been trying to do with them. I told them, like, any assignment I give you guys, I'm going to do myself. And it's a naive, like, teacher thing to do, because obviously the work is insane. Like, I told them I would make this final project and things like that. So, but I think it went well. I think they feel more connected to me. It's hard to say. None of them know that I make videos, so I don't know. Maybe they will find out.
They're going to be looking you up.
But yeah, I think it went pretty well. So
good.
I don't know. I love these notebooks. I really do. I think for me, like I wasn't sure of transitioning into a traveler's notebook at first because I was just traditionally just like one hardbound journal, and I wasn't sure how I would deal with the inserts because typically I'm just use one notebook, word vomit through the whole thing, and then go on to the next one. But it's actually been really nice to kind of section off certain
subjects
ideas and and thoughts. Because sometimes I worry like, oh, if I have too many notebooks going at the same time, like how, like it'll feel like, I don't know, like a little out of control or something. And I love finishing notebooks. That's part of it for me. So, but I've actually really enjoyed having these different sections to work through. And I love the B6 too. So that was new size for me. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah. No, I was actually wanting to send you one because I was like, oh, I know she would love using it.
Yes.
But I didn't because I don't do that. I don't send people stuff, because then they think they're obligated to review it or something. And so I just don't.
No, I love it.
Like, but now that we're friends, you might end up with some stuff. So.
I mean, it's just so nice. And it really feels like, I just love the idea of supporting you too and supporting like all that you do in a, I don't know, just a female-run business in America. It's like,
I guess.
It's exciting. I don't know. I love supporting that.
Anybody can do it, guys. Anybody.
Yes. And I love just supporting small artists and creative people. I think it's really, really important to do. So.
Well, I know I appreciate it. And I'm glad that you bought these used because she actually bought these we're on the buy-sell trade group. I'm glad that you have the two that you have.
Me too.
You made really good choices.
Thanks.
And this one right here looks like one I would own. In fact, I have one that looks almost like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm still getting used to this. So the Darcy leather scratches a lot. And there's part of me that loves it. And the other part of me is like, Oh my gosh, you scratched them.
You can buff them out. You can buff the
Okay.
scratches out really, really easy.
Okay.
So if you're like, oh my goodness, just take some
Yeah.
neutral shoe polish,
Okay.
and you can just buff them right out.
Okay.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, but it's nice too. It's like a living piece of me with time. So
Yeah, and all the memories, and it's just going to develop more and more over time,
Yeah.
and it'll just be like your little Indiana Jones book.
Yes.
So
yes. So, and I was telling Ian before, actually, like I take this one to school, and the kids see it, they're like, "What is in there? Like, there must be some magical secrets or something," because it looks so like official. I think at school, kids are like, "What? What is that?" But
it's a good conversation piece.
Yeah.
And and one thing I like about this leather is because it ages like that. It when I see someone who has like a journal or a notebook that has aged, or even a case, like a briefcase, and it's got a lot of wear on it, I think that person must have experienced a lot in life, and I immediately respect them a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I hope that my viewers go and visit your channel, get to know you better. I feel like I already know you, and your channel is great. And I've watched you for quite a while actually, and I've enjoyed you very much. So I really wanted to meet you in person, and I'm so glad that you came.
Oh, and I'm so glad to be here. Yeah.